So, what does a corporate lawyer do? This is a very common question that I'm asked at different times in my journey. As a business slash corporate lawyer, that's what I do day to day is I help people with their business law needs. People ask me, what does a corporate lawyer really do? What is a day in the life of a corporate lawyer? And how does it add value to their clients? Why do people pay corporate lawyers to do work? So I wanted to take a little time here today. I wanted to dive in and examine what exactly does a corporate or business lawyer do? And we could start with what's the difference between a corporate lawyer and a business lawyer? And really, they're just two different words, right? It used to be the day that most businesses were corporations. So you would have a corporate lawyer, a lawyer that worked for a business, sometimes in-house, that they work for one client, they're part of the company, they're an employee, or you could have outside counsel. They usually don't use the word outhouse lawyer, but outside of the company. So we would have outside counsel is typically what it's called. In-house counsel, outside counsel. But usually they were all corporations. But in the changes of things in the last 30, 40 years, LLCs have become very common. So entities vary. And so we often use the term business lawyer because that picks up a broader scope of who the lawyer could be working for. There's many very large LLCs now. And of course, a lot of the bread and butter businesses are LLCs. And then we get into a lot of structures, and depending on what's happening internationally, taxation, different states, historical structures, it's not uncommon for our clients to have a mixture of corporations and LLCs. LLCs as holding companies, owning shares of corporations, corporations owning LLCs. So it really goes all over the map. It's not just one or the other. So the blanket phrase, business lawyer or corporate lawyer, refers to this person doing work for a business. And so it could be inside the company doing work for one business, or it could be an outside lawyer doing work for a variety of businesses. And in my legal practice, it's typically the latter. I have a variety of clients. They call me with different issues. What are they calling me about? Well, they call me about several different things in my practice. What is, how do I set up a business? How do I structure it? How do I bring other owners into it? How do I get partners working together and make sure we understand the economics? Who gets what? Who comes and goes? How can people be bought out? What if people want to pass their shares on to their families? What if they want to sell to a third party? Structuring. Securities law, bringing in outside investors, right? And that typically has disclosure elements to it, telling people what's going on in the company, explaining the business to them in a way that complies with various laws. And then you have to know who you can sell to, how many people you can sell to, what structure you can do. It's a very nuanced area because there are different what they call exemptions, and most companies are using those exemptions to raise monies, but you have to make sure you fit within the exemption. And then, of course, there's mergers and acquisitions. What happens if one company wants to buy another company? And as a corporate lawyer or business lawyer, you could end up on either side of the transaction. Sometimes you have clients that have been great clients, and then they move on in life. They want to pursue other options. They have new business endeavors they want to move on to. They want to spend more time with their family, and they want to sell their business. So it's not uncommon to have a long-term client that one day says, hey, it's time to sell. And that's a negotiated exit. But then you also get clients who want to acquire other companies. And they say, hey, we want to go out and build our business by bringing in other businesses. Maybe we got a really good business model, but we need more customers. We need more geography. We need whatever the desire is sometimes from the acquisition side. But the core of everything, if I tied all of that together for what a business lawyer is doing, you're typically advising a business on those important legal matters that come up in owning and operating the business. Who are the owners? How do the owners interface with each other? How do we interface with employees? What incentives do we have for the employees? These are all very typical bread and butter things. How are we interfacing with customers and vendors? Do we have standard contracts? What is our contract process? How do we bring them in? What are our risks in our contracts? Does our contract adequately explain common issues that come up in our business? And then you keep moving forward into strategic things, right? Well, what if we enter into a joint venture with another company? What if we bring in more owners, the securities offerings? What if we want to acquire someone? These are all typical things that come up in a business. And then you have problems. Another thing a corporate lawyer does is deal with problems in the business, right? You might have, and this is very common, it comes up, you might have a business that didn't do some state or local filings, right? They expanded, thought they were in compliance, and didn't do something, or maybe they did some other historical documentation wrong. A lot of times, a corporate lawyer is the problem fixer. The job is to come in and see what wasn't done, and then how to repair it. How do you get back in touch with that client and repair that relationship to make sure that you're moving forward, right? That is another common function of a corporate lawyer, is fixing problems. But a lot of our work is strategic, and it depends on the client, but you're often in discussions about what if. The client will call the corporate lawyer and say, what if I sold stock? What would I have to do to get that done? What would a merger look like? What negotiation points should I have in my next strategic contract or partnership agreement? I've been threatened about litigation. What should I do? A lot of time is spent in my practice on settlement discussions, right? People always find a way to get upset, right? So hopefully we plan in advance, we have crystal clear contracts and agreements, but often there are misunderstandings. So we fix issues like that, the settlement discussions. Sometimes a client will enter into a contract with a vendor and it doesn't go well. Even if the client is in the right, let's say the client enters into a contract with the vendor and the vendor doesn't do what they said they were going to do. We still have to figure out how to terminate that contract and what that looks like. And that'll be a common issue coming across the desk of a corporate lawyer is I signed a 3-year contract. I'm 1 year into the 3-year contract. I'm not happy with what the other person's doing. How can we resolve it? What are our range of possible options? These are all things that a corporate lawyer may be called upon to straighten up. And then hopefully you have good clients, and I love these types of clients that are proactive and they say, hey, let's build our business plan together. Let's figure out how we're going to finance this. What is our capital raising plan? Not just now, immediately, but how does it look over the next 2 to 3 years? What rounds of capital raises are we going to do? Are we going to do crowdfunding? Are we going to do a Regulation D private placement? Are we going to allow accredited investors in? Are we going to allow non-accredited investors in? What disclosure should we be shaping? Do we have a merger in the offing potentially? Can we enter into strategic partnership agreements? A good corporate lawyer is spending a lot of time counseling and also talking through issues with the client. Many people might be surprised how I spend a day. I spend a lot of time on the telephone. Clients will call me and they will have issues and we'll be talking through it. You could do this, you could do that. And what are the consequences? And where are you, Mr. or Miss Client, on your risk tolerance? Do you want to take the more risky position, the less risky position? Very common discussion as a corporate lawyer is advising clients of risk. Do you take the risk? Do you not take the risk? Where do you sit on risk tolerance? Do you want to be more aggressive? Do you want to be more conservative? And where does that put you in your business decision? So a good corporate lawyer spends a lot of time planning. And then, of course, we spend time documenting. All of this gets done. And in this day and age, even though we use a lot of electronic files, this needs to be put into written documentation. And so that means writing and thinking about how clauses come together and how to take a business agreement and embody that in a written document. And then, of course, producing draft documentation and providing that to counterparties, because typically you're going to have contracts as a business lawyer. You're going to have multiple parties signing it. So we need to think about what language is advantageous for our client. And then that typically will be reviewed by a corporate lawyer on the other side who's looking for terms and conditions that would be advantageous for their clients. And then it ends up in a debate. You have live discussion talking about, should we have this provision or that provision, and going back and forth with your client. So a good corporate lawyer is an excellent advisor to their client, right? They're working hand in hand with the client, talking about these very important legal subject matters, providing it interfacing with the business decisions, and allowing a good management team to make decisions about what they want to do with the business, being informed about the downstream legal consequences and making informed decisions. That's what a corporate lawyer does. I always remind you, I don't do legal advice on these YouTube shows, but I do try to get you pointed in the right direction. I can't do legal advice over this medium. Obviously, it's public, it's not confidential, and it doesn't provide for the type of discussion you would have in an attorney-client relationship. But if you're needing attorney-client help on things like this, consult an attorney that you like, somebody that you trust. Also, I hope you subscribe to the McBride Attorneys Law Show YouTube channel. Subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Go check out the whole library of past videos. You'll learn a lot about business and business law. And I look forward to seeing you for another episode soon. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like, drop me some comments, and share it with your friends. I'll talk to you.